This is how to make columns required based on status changes inside of Monday.com. By the way, if you'd like us to help you set up Monday.com for your business, check out the link in the description below. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm inside of my example Monday.com system. Now, as I just mentioned a moment ago, I'm going to walk you through how to make columns required based on the changing of a status. So dependent on what that status changes to, certain columns will be required and you'll need to complete the data in order to make that status change. Now, I must warn you, as fantastic as this feature is, it's only available on the enterprise version of Monday.com Sales CRM. Now, there is an argument to say that this actually might be worth the upgrade. There's controversy around whether enterprise is worth it or not. I think for a feature like this, there is an enormous use case. If you are interested in upgrading to enterprise, let me just give you the TLDR so you don't have to go around the houses speaking to people. Essentially, you have to purchase the enterprise package. It's not significantly more than the professional version, maybe like £10, £15 per user or $10 to $15 per user per month more expensive. The only caveat to the enterprise version is you have to pay for the full 12 months up front for all of your users. So as opposed to doing, let's say you're on the professional version, you're paying monthly, it's actually going to be paid up front. So if you've got 5 users at whatever per month, so that total value times 12, pay up front, you get the enterprise version. So that's the enterprise version. I thought I'd make you aware of it, but I think this feature might actually be worth paying for on Monday Sales CRM. The frustrating part about this is this doesn't apply to work management, even if you have both Sales CRM and enterprise, Sales CRM and work management on enterprise. But anyway, it is what it is, right? So now we've got past the blabbering, let me just walk you through it. So on the status column here, what you can do is press a 3-dotted button, go to settings and go to set label change conditions. Now, in my opinion, this is a feature that Monday.com has needed for a very, very, very long time. So it's nice to see that it has arrived. It's been around a little while now, but obviously I'm only getting around to making a video on it now. So you can go ahead and click into set label change conditions, and then you can select the requirements and also like what causes the requirement. So when label changes to, and then let's say in contract, for example, then we can ask the end user to fill out these fields, and then we can go ahead and click in and select the fields that need to be completed in order to change the status to in contract. So I can select contract terms, I could go ahead and I could add payment terms, I could go ahead and make sure that a start date and also an end date are also all completed. Now, if there's certain data points that don't necessarily need to be required, but it would be useful for people to populate that information, you can go ahead and have that. And then all you need to do is just make sure you press apply and then go ahead and press done. So now if I remove the start date and end date from here and go ahead and change the status of my deal to in contract, I'm presented with this pop-up screen here, and it auto populates the data points that have already been completed, such as 12 months, payment terms, but then it asks me to enter in the information regarding start date and end date or whatever hasn't yet been completed. So if I leave end date blank and press save, it's going to tell me that it's required. It's not going to let me save an update and change to the in contract status. Now, this is especially helpful also with integrations, because quite often with integrations, you need certain data points in order to trigger the automation or the integration. You don't want the integration to be triggered without certain data points. In the past, there was no way of preventing this. Now there is. So this is why I think this feature is probably worth paying for. If you can stomach paying up front for the 12 months and you're already using Monday.com, then I think this makes total sense. Just on this as well, so if I go to the 3-dotted button, go to settings, I can also add different change conditions or 4 different labels. So if we go to when status changes to lost, what we could also do here is go ahead and add on the board, let's say a long text description or a long text, and this would be loss reason. And what we could do is we could go ahead and say when the status is equal to lost. So 3-dotted button, settings, set label change conditions, and then when status is equal to lost, then it's important that we get the loss reason. Now, you might have a drop down menu, you might have a long text, you might have both. the long text might not be required, but the status column for the reasoning is, and then all you need to do is press apply and then press done. So if I now change the status of this particular deal to lost, then it's going to ask me to complete a reason as to why we lost the deal, and we can have a drop down, a status, and everything else. Okay, so that is pretty much all there is to it. It is, in my opinion, an unbelievably good feature, definitely worth paying for. The frustration people have with missing data points can be resolved very, very easily and quickly with this. Now, you'll also notice, or at least it's worth me mentioning on here, that we just have this one status column with the set label change conditions, but also we could have, let's say, change conditions or required field, shall we say, based on other status columns within the board as well. So we could say that if the deal type is equal to new, then there are certain additional data points that we need to capture. So we go 3 dotted button, settings, set label change conditions. And again, we say when status is equal to new, then, and you can go ahead and see we've got all of these data points here. Now you will notice, unfortunately, it was never going to be perfect. You can't require a account record, or what I'm trying to say is a connection column to be created. So you can't enforce a connection to have existed on a connection column. It would only be drop downs, long text, short text. You can see the options: status columns, date columns, timeline columns, etc., etc. But you can see here I've got an account connection column. There would be no way for me to enforce that there is a connection associated with this connection column, unfortunately, but we're still making significant progress in the right direction. So this can be applied to anything. Obviously, 3 dotted button, you can have multiple different change conditions. Another caveat, you can't have variables, so it can't be if status is equal to in contract and only if deal type is equal to renewing, then we require these data points. Okay, so you would have to go to if deal type is equal to renewing, then we need these. If contract terms is equal to 6 months, then we need this data points. If it's different from 12 to 6, that's how you would do it. You can't have conditional logic to say if this and this and this, then we need all of this data. So you wouldn't have to do it at a more local level, if that makes any sense at all. So that's pretty much it. I think this is without question worth paying for. I think this is a massive feature within Monday.com. Now, if you need this for project management, truth be told, you can do project management within Monday Sales CRM. They don't want to admit it, but you can. And the products are practically identical with the exception of maybe a couple of features. So if you wanted to manage projects within Monday Sales CRM, we do it because we want the set label change conditions column. You can do. It's not a problem, and then you'll at least get that feature, which is enormously beneficial. So hopefully this video has been helpful, giving you an insight into setting label change conditions or making columns required based on the changing of a status. Settings, set label change conditions, put in the status change and then the columns you want to make required or not make required, and then just press apply. Make sure you press apply, because if you don't press apply, it won't save. I've done that many times before. And then that's pretty much it. All of your team will now have to follow the sequence that you've set up. So if the status changes to whatever, then they must do X, Y, and Z. Awesome. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you would like us to help you set up Monday.com for your business, check out the link in the description below. Thank you ever so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.